Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Our first New Year's Eve bowl game is going to be a fun one, and it is going to be a game of farewells, as Virginia Tech will take on Kentucky in the Belk Bowl. The Hokies are entering their 27th straight bowl game, the longest bowl streak in the entire country. It will also mark Bud Foster's final game as defensive coordinator for Virginia Tech. So you know that this defense wants to send him out on a high, wants to send him out with a dominant performance and a win to conclude his truly amazing career, all spent as a coordinator. The Hokies are 8-4 entering this game, which is even more impressive considering they started the year at 2-2. So they went 6-2 down the remainder of this season. A lot of credit goes to Bud Foster in that defense, but Justin Fuente being able to adjust, especially finding himself a quarterback, which we'll adjust here in a second. Kentucky, they are making their fourth straight bowl game under Mark Stoops, and to me, that's just truly phenomenal, truly unbelievable. But this year is more unbelievable than any of the other three bowl appearances. Kentucky sitting at 7-5, which is probably a mark they shouldn't even have, considering the circumstances they've had to deal with. And what I mean by that is the fact that they have played the majority of this season with Lynn Bowden at quarterback. The wide receiver, the one that was supposed to put up huge receiving numbers this year, instead had to go under center for Kentucky and is 5-2 as a starter this season. Truly, truly unbelievable. Not just the job that the coaching staff has done to adjust, but the play that Lynn Bowden has been able to put up for the Wildcats this year. He is the only player in the country to lead his team in both rushing yards and receiving yards. He has 1,235 yards on the ground and 11 touchdowns, averaging a whopping 8.2 yards per carry. And the offense is still putting up solid numbers despite him playing under center, playing quarterback. They're averaging 26.3 points per game. Terry Wilson goes down, Sawyer Smith comes down, in comes Lynn Bowden, a guy that only threw for 4 passing yards in their win over Louisville in the season finale. Yet here the Wildcats are sitting at 7-5. And keep in mind, while all eyes are on Lynn Bowden, one of the most elusive players in all of college football, he has a trio of running backs in the backfield that are going to help him out. And be a major reason why this offense has thrived so well is because of that dangerous read option. Will Bowden keep it, or will he hand it off to someone like Christian Rodriguez, Cavassier Smoke, or Asim Rose? All three of those running backs putting up big numbers this season and really being a huge boost to Bowden. Not just for the read option, but also if they want to try to get some short passes out there as well. For Virginia Tech, like we mentioned earlier, they finally found their quarterback in Hendon Hooker, who's only thrown for over 1,400 yards this season, but has put up 11 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And those didn't come until the final game of the season against Virginia. They're averaging 30.8 points per game, and they're very, very balanced. 217.3 passing yards per game and 172.5 rushing yards per game, led by Deshaun McClease at running back. So this Virginia Tech offense finally found some life. They were very stagnant, they were very bland, had no identity early on in this season. When they made the switch to Hooker at quarterback, that's when things started to click. That's when they started going 6-2 down the stretch. A major reason they almost won the ACC Coastal and played in the ACC title game. When you look at these two teams defensively, though, you know this is the reason that Virginia Tech's at 8-4 and Kentucky's at 7-5. The reason they're both here right now, this is their bread and butter. This is the strength for Kentucky, and this is the strength for Virginia Tech. And we'll look at Kentucky first. We knew Mark Stoops coming in to the Kentucky job. He's now about to wrap up his 7th year with the program. Hard to believe it's been that long. But that defense was his strength. And they showed that this year. Kentucky allowing just 18.4 points per game. Virginia Tech only allowing 23.7, so not that bad. Another phenomenal mark from Bud Foster. But as we mentioned, that 18.4 points per game is the reason why Kentucky is 7-5. Because their offense is predictable with Lynn Bowden. People haven't been able to stop it. I'll add that. They haven't been able to stop it, but you know what's coming. You know that the passing game is practically going to be a non-factor. But over the course of these final 6 games, where the majority of Lynn Bowden's playing time came, Kentucky, the most points they allowed was 21 to Georgia. They got shut out in that game, sure, but 21 points to what was a top 5 team in the country at the time. The second most points they allowed was 17 in a loss to Tennessee. Those were the only 2 losses for Kentucky during this stretch with Lynn Bowden under center. So they are playing some lights-out defense, allowing just 172.7 passing yards per game and 148.9 rushing yards per game. And that's my biggest concern. They're not allowing a lot of points. They're not allowing a lot of passing yards, but they are allowing quite a bit of rushing yards. Deshaun McClease is the real deal at running back, and Hendon Hooker does have some dual threat capability. So that's something that kind of concerns me a little bit for Kentucky. Can their defense, especially if they get worn down and tired because the offense isn't doing their job, can the defense shut down a fairly solid rushing attack in an area that they have struggled for the majority of this season? When you look at Virginia Tech, it's Bud Foster's final game. So as we mentioned, emotions going to be high. The defense is going to be ready to play. They want to come out here and make Kentucky offensively a complete non-factor. They are fairly generous against the pass. But luckily for Virginia Tech, that's going to be a non-factor. Remember, Kentucky had 4 passing yards in that win over Louisville. So don't expect them all of a sudden to go out and throw for 200 yards in this game against Virginia Tech. So I wouldn't worry too much about the passing game. Virginia Tech is allowing 123.3 rushing yards per game, which once again is not a bad mark. But the number that I want to circle here, the number that really stuck out to me was not that rushing yards per game mark, but how they fared against the last dual threat quarterback they had to go up against. Now, granted, we say dual threat because the guy can throw and he can run. Lynn Bowden, he has been able to put up decent passing numbers a little bit this season, but once again, don't expect him to just burst onto the scene here. But Virginia Tech, when they faced off against Virginia in the season finale and faced off against Bryce Perkins, they allowed 164 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground to Perkins. 164 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. That doesn't count what he did through the air in that 39-30 win for the Cavaliers. So that's something that Virginia Tech has to be prepared for. Can they stop Lynn Bowden? Can they prepare better for Lynn Bowden in Kentucky than they did for Virginia, where Bryce Perkins ran all over them? I want to add, though, that 164 yards to Perkins, the other running backs against Virginia Tech allowed just 17 yards. So 164 of the 181 yards came from Bryce Perkins. Only 17 rushing yards came from other backs. That is something that's very interesting, which means Lynn Bowden might be doing this all by himself. Which leads us to the question, can Virginia Tech stop Lynn Bowden? Can they stop one of, if not the most elusive player in the entire country? And we are saying no. We are picking Kentucky to go on and win the Belk Bowl, getting back-to-back bowl victories under Mark Stoops. I'd like to think that Virginia Tech can. I'd like to think that Bud Foster, with nearly a month to prepare for this game, has dialed up a plan that's going to shut down Lynn Bowden and make them try to win this game through the air, something they have obviously struggled with or really haven't had to worry about. So I'd like to think this defense is going to go out there, get the job done, send Bud Foster off. It's kind of a Cinderella story, sending him off on a victory into the sunset, concluding a phenomenal over 20 years of being a defensive coordinator. But I look at this and I say that Lynn Bowden is, first off, way too versatile. Way too versatile. And you just go back and look at any of the games he's played in since he took over as starter, and you will see that. Then I look at Kentucky's defense, and I say they are definitely the difference maker. I think they actually own a slight edge. Many people didn't expect Kentucky's defense to play as well as they did this year after losing so many key pieces from last year. I think they surprised a lot of people, and they have really stepped it up due to these unfortunate circumstances. They are playing some elite ball, and I think they're going to be able to force some turnovers, force some stops against Virginia Tech, and my bold prediction is that Kentucky does in fact get a huge gain through the air. At least one huge game through the air, and that's going to set up at least 3 points, if not 7, for the Wildcats, and for all we know, that could be the difference maker. Lynn Bowden connects on at least one huge pass, if not more. We know he's going to dominate on the ground. Kentucky's defense is the difference maker, and the Wildcats finish the season at 8-5, back-to-back bowl wins for Mark Stoops. And it's an unbelievable job well done that he's been doing in Lexington. Not just since he got here 7 years ago, but this year in 2019 might just be his most impressive year yet. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure to like this video and check out everything we have for you in the description below. We've got the spread pick for this Belk Bowl, along with every other college football bowl game spread pick over at thegridironexpert.com. And we have some other college football content offers that you do not want to miss. And so once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.